About a very easy problem called generate parenthesis. It will take very short time for me to explain it. So obviously we have to generate a bunch of sequences in which you use opening and closing parenthesis, or to reframe my sentence, we have to generate a bunch of strings which only contain opening and closing brackets, and each of the string would be a valid parenthesis combination. Uh, that means just let me show you the output here. So this is a valid parenthesis combination. So there is no open parenthesis, right? And no, and everything is closed. Right? As you can see for this particular example, we have this parenthesis, these two parentheses which are close together, and then that is totally bounded by this parenthesis, and then this is separate, but entire thing, entire string is valid. So for example, so that's what we have to generate. It's a very simple problem. So without doing any more delay, just let me directly move into the solution of the problem. I think because for this problem, if you directly look at the solution, it is good enough. So we have taken open and close to be 0 0, right? And let us first so open and close means, so initially our string is an empty string, and we try to put in open and close brackets into the string, so as to get n open and close brackets and form a and form a valid kind of parenthesis string, right? That is what we start off with an empty string, and obviously since the string is empty, it will have zero open brackets and zero close brackets, right? So now and this is the solver, which is basically the function which generates the result for us, and populates it into the result, and that is what we return, because that contains the result that we want. Okay, so pattern is the current state of the string. Initially our pattern will be null, or an empty string which is getting passed in. So this is this is a string which is trying to generate using opening and closing brackets. So what is the base condition for this? The base condition is, if a number of open brackets is n and number of closed brackets is n, then obviously we push back the pattern, right? So that's our base condition, and we'll write the code in such a way that we never really generate a wrong parenthesis. Okay, never generate. So I will write the code in such a way that when we are pretty sure that when we are opening brackets is n and our closing brackets is n, then the parenthesis string that we generate will be always valid, right? So we'll put in some checks and balances in place to ensure that this definitely happens. So okay, we have one check which is pretty self-explanatory. If the number of open brackets that we're trying to that we have is more than n, then obviously we return, because this is invalid. So now we are trying to create our valid parenthesis string recursively. So we try to insert an open kind of open parenthesis into the string, right? And so we increment the open value here, because we are inserting one more open parenthesis into the string, and we explore whether this can produce a result or not. If it does produce a result, this result will be populated, and this is a reference. So if this populates the result, it will reflect in this function itself, right? And obviously we have closed and open. We have incremented the open value here, and we need to decrement that, because in this particular case we are actually inserting a closed bracket, but the open value was incremented here, so which that means that has to be decremented here, and we are incrementing the closed value because we are inserting a closed parenthesis, and then we make sure here that the number of closed parentheses is always less than open parenthesis. That's why if we are putting a check on open parenthesis here, and then putting a check on close parenthesis, so our close parenthesis will always be less than number of open parentheses, and we'll make sure that the open parenthesis does not go out of bounds, and since the close parenthesis is less than open parenthesis, that also uh, uh, will not go out of bounds. To be more precise, the close parenthesis will be less than equal to open parenthesis, and that's why that will also not go out of bounds, right? And then we are exploring this path in which we insert a close parenthesis here, and ultimately after all this, we are pretty sure that our result will be populated, because in if in any of those recursive calls for the set of recursive calls which originate from here. Maybe it will reach to an base condition case, and then in that case the result will capture there, and since it is a reference, it will be reflected in the main function, right? And also it will be reflected in this function because it also passes the result vector of strings as a reference. So that's how we get the result, and that's why we find the answer. This passes all the test cases. This is very simple problem. So I did not really go to the whiteboard to explain this. Hope you understood this problem. I see you in the next video. Thank you.